Hello everybody, welcome to the Wonky Angle, where I talk about electronic music, both new and old. And it's time for the annual Todd ripoffs. So, 2018 was a year. I don't think I really know what qualifies as a good or a bad year anymore. Just starting to become numb to this kind of thing. I think 2018 probably felt more like a nothing year to me. It felt like a year where I got very little accomplished and just... I don't know, it was kind of unrewarding and meh. And speaking of unrewarding and meh, I can tell you that the pop music this year, it's never been more difficult to care about than any previous year. I went into making these Todd ripoffs because I find the various goings-on with Billboard to be pretty interesting, and I often come out of my following the popular trends with a handful of neat gems every now and then. And, you know, Todd's format is fun to work with. I always have a lot of fun with making the best hits lists, and because, hey, just because it's popular doesn't mean it's bad, and there's no shortage of people I know think nothing but mediocrity or outright crap rises to the top of the charts and humanity's becoming dumber and all that stupid stuff that I don't really believe in. Okay, maybe they're kinda right, but it's always easier for me to talk about things I like than things I don't like. I still made the top 10 worst hits list this past 3 years, mainly because, you know, they were really popular and fun for me to edit, but I really hate writing them. Not that they don't come from a genuine place, but with each successive one of these, I felt like I had to force myself through them more and more, especially since I never actively listen to the radio and don't get affected by overplay as much, and the final results continually feel more slipshod, and my own perspective feels increasingly unnecessary to the conversation. Whatever spark there was when I first started making these, it just isn't there to nearly the same extent. That's why both of these lists are now in the same video. And it's also why, rather than present the worst list in the traditional Todd ripoff format, I decided to leave it up to a colleague of mine. This is the top 10 worst hit songs of 2018 as presented by...
Hello everybody, it is the return of the text-to-speech voice guy, but with a different voice because the old site that did this voice doesn't work for whatever reason. And Tommy is making me present the list of the best songs ever in history because he is a lazy ass who makes bad excuses. Disclaimer that the list presented is objectively the correct one, just facts, and if you think it should be anything different you are a terrible person with no life. Even if Tommy says all that crap about it being his opinion and you can feel free to disagree with it. Also Tommy has to actually say things about the songs.
Wait, what was that last part?
If he doesn't, that misses the entire point of these videos. Also nobody thinks that you don't script these. Okay,
fine, but I don't have much. Just go.
Number 10. Taki Taki by DJ Snake and Selena Gomez and Uzona and Cardi B.
Uzona sounds like Roll from Ed, Edd n Eddy. The song is just a mushy blob of nothing that got markedly worse every time I heard it, and the reggaeton craze just needs to freaking end already.
Number 9. Nonstop by Drake.
I'm upset. 50,000 on my head is...
Drake needs to take a break. A Drake break. Maybe you should also momentarily stop pressing down on one car pedal, a Drake break. And then from not pressing on that pedal, drive his car into a nearby body of water, which then becomes a Drake break lake. And I feel like I'm putting more effort into these shitty puns than Drake or anyone involved put into this track, which makes this segment a Drake break lake mistake.
Stop it! Number 8. Beat by 6ix99 and Anu AA.
I've been informed that I have to care about this 6ix9ine guy, but I really can't, as he's basically just human clickbait. By the way, did I mention that the reggaeton craze needs to freaking end already?
Number 7. Lucid Dreams by Jiuce wrld.
You found another one, but I am the better one.
You're not the better one. The better one wouldn't release a song whining about being the better one. Just grow up, dude.
Number 6. Girls Like You by Maroon 5 and Cardi B.
Bleh. That's my insight.
Number 5. Meant to Be by bebricksa and Florida Georgia Line.
I still don't get the appeal of bebricksa or who asked for a trap beat on this.
Number 4. Born to Be Yours by Kygo and Imagine Dragons.
Jesus Christ, his voice! Kill with fire!
Number 3. Sick Boy by the Chainsmokers.
Drew Taggart attempts to make a political stance and make people feel sorry for him and accomplishes neither. Congratulations, fuck you. Listening to this shitty 21 Pilots ripoff makes me the sick boy. Oh.
Number 2. Freaky Friday by Lil Dicky and Chris Brown.
I don't have anything to add to this that 12 other YouTube critics haven't said already.
Number 1. Friends by Marshmello and Anne-Marie.
Alright, I'm gonna sit up for this one. Let's talk about freaking Marshmello. I don't think I've ever mentioned this dude in a video before. Maybe I've hinted at my thoughts here and there, but he is like the second coming of Geta. This dude is really terrible, blown out, low-level trap production. He has absolutely no personality or way that you could easily recognize him. For whatever reason, I listened to his Joytime 2 album earlier this year, and the production is so fucking terrible and shrill, it makes me want to jump out a fucking window. Didn't cover it, since Landon Remix's disappointed sounding 1 out of 10 review is probably honestly more satisfying than anything I could have said. This guy would have to make it on this list to some capacity. He hasn't released a single track so far that was better than mediocre. But out of all the tracks he's released, nothing makes me cringe harder than this self-proclaimed official friend zone anthem. Because friend zoning is totally a thing that needs an anthem. It's a really simple feeling that can be turned into an anthem that isn't seriously just awkward and complicated and unfulfilling for everyone. And this track frames friend zoning as some kind of talking down Beyonce-style kiss-off with all this production I guess is supposed to be like self-empowering and badass, which means that this is trying to justify the attitudes of entitled dipshits who think you just can't be regular friends with women and that they're only for fucking or something. Yeah, we really need that in 2018. Anne-Marie doesn't even freaking spell friends right. Frinds. Frinds. As for the production, it's this kind of stiff fake rock thing with generic trap percussion. It's shitty, but it doesn't sound nearly as bad as the Joytime stuff. Until fucking hell the G-Funk squealing at the end. That's just, what the fuck are you doing? Tag with Irrelevant Kygo and falsetto Imagine Dragons. Kill this with fire. Fuck you, Marshmello. Let's please leave this dickhead behind and not give him any more hits. Oh, he's in the top 10 right now. Well, this was a good use of my time. I don't know about anyone else, but I want to switch over to something more positive, okay? So now we're in the best list, and I'm ditching text-to-speech voice guy and doing this in the traditional Todd ripoff format. No more stupid fake dialogue gimmicks.
Hey, what the fuck?
Anyways, repeating disclaimers that everything is my opinion and you can feel free to disagree with me, and to qualify for this list, I guess basically you had to chart on Billboard or be mildly popular in some way, and more importantly, give me material to talk about. If you've never seen one of my Todd ripoffs, I started these out with the guilty pleasures and honorable mentions, kinda sorta the same thing, but guilty pleasures are ones that I happen to be aware of some really obvious flaws and gripes, but still enjoy for whatever reason anyway. So let's get into those.
You're such a fucking hoe, I love it.
This is the realest Kanye's been pretty much all year. I like the bass line. Also kinda like the weird not dubstep stuff that just sounds really unlike anything else popular right now. Yes, I'm aware this entire thing is totally ridiculous and stupid, but I don't know, I kinda found something charming about it, but I think I might mainly like the bass line, but I don't know. Well, the Chainsmokers finally released a song I kinda like. Proof that literally anyone can make this kind of new disco crap and I will pretty much always eat it up. The production on this track is absolutely fantastic, and I really never in a million years thought I'd say that about a freaking Chainsmokers track. The groove is freaking unstoppable. Instrumental is like a gazillion light years ahead of the bland stuff they usually deliver. That said, it is still only in the guilty pleasures section because, well, first of all, the lyrics suck. Concept is once again Emily Warren thinks Drew Taggart is an asshole, but still really wants to fuck him anyways, which, given Taggart's the first writer listed in the credits, is just gross. Not the first time they pulled this exact crap, too. They did it with My Type on their unopenable album last year. Also, there was this whole weird cringy rap thing at the end.
Tom should have taught me the lesson. We're looking for a sign, but instead I got a message.
Yeah, I immediately lose interest once this part shows up. Maybe more accurately, the Chainsmokers made half a song I really like. But yeah, while it's no Would I Lie to You or One Kiss, it's the clear winner of the Would Be Really Great If You Remove the Lead Artist award this year, and I'm also using them as my buffer music because I guess I'm no good at giving it up either. I haven't yet listened to these guys' new album outside of this track In My Blood, but I've heard a lot of buzzing about it. May have to get around to giving it a shot myself at some point. Cool to see these guys are still charting despite such completely wonky song structure like this that no radio station's gonna touch.
Don't pick up the phone, you know he's only got.
Here's one that I really want to like more than I think I actually do. I mean, I really like the lyrics, despite not being remotely relatable to me being a guy, but they're pretty memorable. Dua Lipa provides a lot of personality.
Don't be his friend, you know you're gonna wake up in his bed in the morning.
She should send that third wheel to Anne-Marie. Didn't make it higher though, because that drop is really meh. Yeah, just not at all satisfying. Next. Just barely missed the cut, but I think this was the first time I fully got the appeal of Migos.
I can't stop thinking about you.
This didn't even come close to Billboard as far as I know, so it doesn't qualify for the list, but like, can we trade Shawn Mendes for this guy? I'm saying that because we knew each other when I was really little and our dads are friends, but I do really like this track and it really sounds like it should be on Billboard. I mean, I can't remember a single thing Mendes released this year, but Dylan Gardner's putting out actual good stuff. His whole Almost Real album was pretty nice, if a bit of a step down from his debut. Still, wouldn't it be great to have a more fun track that sounded like this on Billboard? Oh yeah, I guess we did kinda get a track that sounded like that. This is pretty alright too. I'll take it. Anyways, time for the list proper. Number 10. Alright, let's start this list out with an obvious one.
That's a real one in your reflection without a follow.
I think most people have this one on their own list, and maybe some people may be wondering why I don't have it even higher. I'll say first and foremost, I really like the message. Drake genuinely talking about how he appreciates the struggles women go through in an actually respectful way. I'll definitely take that. We don't get this kind of message nearly often enough. And I like the fact that Lauryn Hill was sampled, one of the most prominent and influential women in hip-hop, helps add to the message. As for why it's not higher, I think the production is kinda eh. I don't know why, but this sample sounds really hollow and tinny. It's always sounded off to me and never went all the way into being great. People are going nuts over this beat, and I'll admit it's growing a little on me too, but I just can't say it's the greatest beat I've ever heard. Probably would have worked better in the context of the album, which has like 24 other tracks that sound pretty much identical to each other. This is a track I think I respect more than I outright enjoy, but hey, still made it on the list. It didn't sound like anything else out this year, and that's something good. Next one. Number 9. Yeah, to heck with these unique instrumentals that didn't sound like anything else out this year. Give me bland, retro 80s synthwave crap. That's much better.
A lot for you, baby. Time for you, baby.
Yep, I'll say this. I still like Attention an unhealthy amount. I've even heard it on the radio and willingly not changed the station. But there was still a problem of Charlie Puth himself, who seemed to be trying to sound all cool and badass, and I wasn't totally sure of how well he sold it. If not for the fantastic instrumental, it might come off kind of pissy and manipulative. Dumb For Me fixes this problem by having the girl in this situation, played by Kalani, tell Charlie Puth how full of shit he is.
I never cheated, deleted everyone, cause they made you uncomfortable.
I think that's a really cool touch. Well, I don't think the instrumental on Done For Me is as good as Attention or How Long, admittedly never been as into this kind of synthwave stuff. It's still a track that really stuck with me and I felt was worth highlighting. Feel like we now have the trilogy set up for good Charlie Puth tracks. Didn't actually care enough to listen to his new album, but whatever. Anyways, next one. Number 8. You know, if there's one thing I tend not to like in artists, it's when they're really derivative. Not to say that derivative work can't be good, I just tend to favor originality. If you're just rehashing stuff that other people have already done or that you yourself have already done, you gotta justify yourself in some other way. Clean Bandit have previously gotten away with making Rather Be over and over because the hooks were all equally good, for instance, but even they have their limits. That last album showed them trying to remake their single Rockabye over and over, and virtually none of them were able to follow up on it effectively. So yes, I don't like blatant formula abuse. So why do I like this track so much? Okay, I've been told this got serious overplay for some people, but that doesn't come into play for these lists since I'm not typically around the radio. But it's no secret that The Middle is pretty much an exact clone of Zed's big single from last year, Stay.
All you have to do is stay a minute.
Has a lot of the exact same musical elements, the vocoders, the lumpy drops. Maren Morris and Alessia Cara have really similar voices. Ticking clock, too, though to be fair, he's been abusing that sound for years. I didn't even really like Stay that much. Thought it had potential, but kinda had a mediocre drop. I should hate this, but to me, The Middle is actually way better than Stay. It's really only one detail that changed. Maren Morris now sings over the drop, but that completely changes things, because my previous complaint is that the drop was flat and kinda awkward. With her voice over it, she makes the drop feel like it's actually keeping up the momentum that was lost before, so it actually succeeds as a payoff. So now this idea actually works. If you hate it, I totally get it. It's still a far cry from the greatness of his Clarity days, but I see The Middle less as a shameless self-ripoff, and more as a bug fix. So I will definitely take it. It's good stuff. Number 7. Okay, next obvious pick, go. I'm not really sure what to say about this. Like Nice for What, most of the things that immediately come to my mind to say about it are the things I wasn't as keen on about it. My initial reaction to this track is that the production was freaking beautiful, but the lyrics had a couple of little cringy moments that I was kinda iffy on.
So we turn it up, yeah.
We turn it up.
We vibing, we vibing.
We vibing, we vibing. Might just be that this didn't totally feel right coming out of Ariana's mouth. Another one of those moments where she was trying to be all cool and fit in with a certain crowd. Like, how do you do, fellow adults? It wasn't until Thank You Next came out that she actually sounded like a mature adult to me. And, after that, I got to focus on the more important part of this track, the fact that the production is beautiful. Yeah, this track sounds amazing, and I am a sucker for any time we have this kind of track that involves some kind of bell or vibraphone type noise, and this is no exception. And I think that's about all I got on this one, so thank you. Next! Number 6. This is one of those tracks I don't totally feel like I'm the right person to be talking about it, but this was also one of the biggest surprises of 2018.
I see niggas in this bitch starting popping bottles.
Alright, so I've never liked Lil Wayne. I know a ton of people call him the greatest rapper of all time. I'll admit to not having heard much of anything from when he was in his prime, but the stuff I mainly knew him for was stuff like this.
Baby, just make me come, then don't make a sound.
So, you know, scream at me about how I'm missing out on life-changing material, but Wayne never interested me. Then the Carter 5 came out and everyone nuts over this specific track, so I decided I should hear it, and I was just like, okay, I think I finally get what people see in this guy. Wayne telling a story about this lady who seduces guys and then gives Wayne information so he can rob them. You know, classy, but he does put together a coherent story that's easy to follow. And one of the victims of this whole setup was apparently freaking Kendrick Lamar, of all people.
Every day she wake up with a different color makeup and a promise he could take her to the movie in the mall.
And he's rapping into Pimp a Butterfly style with all the weird voices, which is great. Oh yeah, and the beat is pretty nice too, all that dramatic piano stuff which fits with the story and I definitely approve of. I know I'm making some very deep analysis on this thing that I'm sure nobody would have been able to uncover on first listen here. The reason, though, that's not even higher on this list is because, again, it's one I think I have more respect for than I think I personally get a lot of enjoyment out of or feel compelled to return to a lot. Admittedly, kinda makes me feel gross listening to it, but it's gross in a really impressive way. So, good on you, Lil Wayne. Wonder if that whole album's any good.
Don't cry.
Maybe I'll check it out another time. Yeah. Number 5. Good old 90s nostalgia. Yeah, safe bit picking a retro pastiche, but it is notable that this is the first time Bruno Mars has actually made the list proper for me. I mean, I was never huge on Uptown Funk, and 24 Karat Magic and That's What I Like were cool, but not the greatest stuff I've ever heard. But this is the one that finally did it for me. Is it because I have more nostalgia for the era? I mean, I guess technically, but when New Jack Swing was a big thing, I was at best still a baby. I only know what In Living Color was because my dad had a bunch of old VHS tapes with old Golden Era Simpsons episodes he taped when they first aired, and there were commercials for In Living Color, which you know is something. But I think honestly what really put this one over the top for me was Cardi B.
Drop top Porsche, rollie on my wrist, diamonds up and down my chain.
Cardi B has been interesting to have around on the charts. I get the feeling people are starting to get sick of her at this point. I don't think I'm at that point yet. I'll still take her over the 28 indistinguishable trap rappers who are apparently hot right now. But this appearance sounded really different, because she actually bothered to try and fit in with this whole New Jack Swing thing, and it works. It was just that little element of novelty to help stick with me. So, yeah, I figured this is on a lot of people's lists, but hey, it's well deserved. So, yeah, next one. Number 4. Oh boy, this gonna be a hard one to defend. Okay, I imagine this is a bigger candidate for people's worst list. I should give some background on the people involved here. Well, okay, there's 4 names here, but only 2 of them actually matter. Tiesto and Post Malone. Unless you really care about other producer and other Post Malone. I don't really. Now, Post Malone has been really big this year. Had lots of hit singles and a super popular album called Beer Bongs and Bentleys. That's a name. He's gotten some hate and some love. I think he's I haven't heard any of his singles that I outright hated, but they all kind of sound exactly the same to me. I think the Candy Paint one was cool since it sounded happier or something, and I seem to recall him bizarrely referencing the Zombies' Time of the Season in one track, which, you know, automatically gets points. Otherwise, he's a dumbass stoner who makes background music, and I don't feel strongly either way about him. As for Tiesto, good freaking god, I have a complicated relationship with this guy. His first 3 albums are all really solid trance stuff. He worked with BT and Kirsty Hawkshaw, which is fantastic in any context, but then he released one of the worst albums of all time with Kaleidoscope, then a collection of tolerable but completely bland and flavorless pop EDM with A Town Called Paradise, and since then, well, he's done stuff like this.
Bring that ass back like a boom 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 boom.
Yeah, needless to say, few artists in this genre have fallen off as spectacularly as Tiesto. He hasn't made anything I've liked since Elements of Life, and I gave up hope for a comeback for him years ago. A collab between Tiesto and Post Malone should be the worst thing ever. And yet, you know, maybe it is just Stockholm Syndrome and the fact that I have such low expectations for these guys, but Jackie Chan accomplished something that neither of these artists have done in forever. It sounded fun and put me in a good mood.
I can't wait for the show.
I know it's low standards. I get the people who hate it and who put it on their worst list. The EDM new disco groove is pretty plain and nondescript. The whirring drill sound in the drop is pretty meh. Also the casual racism. Jackie Chan is from Hong Kong, he speaks Chinese, he is not from Japan. Post Malone, you are a dumbass. But I still feel like this collab worked way better than it had any right to. Tiesto gives Post Malone an instrumental where he gets to sound like he's genuinely having a good time. And Post Malone gives Tiesto some much-needed interesting flavor. I don't know, this was gonna be in the guilty pleasure section for a long time, but every time I hear it, it ends up getting a little bit better, so yeah, this song is crap, but it's my kind of crap. You get me? No, I don't get you. You should die for enjoying such an insultingly terrible track. Oh. Well, shit.
This is America. Don't get you slipping now.
Right, now this is another topic that I think has pretty much been done to death, and people have already described it as such months ago. Hey, why aren't you dead? Because we don't need corny skits, get out of here. Oh, okay, sorry. See, I don't really have much to add to this one that everyone else hasn't, but it is something that not only am I really glad exists, both for the discussions on what it means and for all the memes that came out of it, but it's a track that I found really fun to return to quite a bit throughout the year. Just how cheerful it can be in 1 second, then totally dark and creepy another second. All this plastic sheen then torn right off by gruesome reality and other things that like 20 other people have talked about in the video and all that stuff. It's probably gonna be on everyone else's list, but again, it's well deserved. Next one. Number 2.
Number 2.
God damn it, Calvin Harris, when are you gonna get off these freaking lists?
One kiss is all it takes, falling in love with me.
I am really sick of praising Calvin Harris in these videos if it wasn't already obvious. That's why I decided this year to finally make proper reviews of his previous albums to illustrate why he is such a ridiculously frustrating artist. He is way more crap than he is good stuff, but right from the first time I heard this track, I knew I would have to make those videos because I think One Kiss may very well be his best track to date overall. Finally dethroning Ready for the Weekend, or at least tying with it. This is just straight 90s deep house, and like Finesse, he was perfectly able to capture that moment in time, but this time it was an era I already cared a lot more about beforehand. I love this exact kind of house music. Not to say this style automatically makes me love a track. Calvin Harris did this style again on Promises with Sam Smith, and that was fun, but not as good. And Dua Lipa tried this again on Electricity with Silk City, Mark Ronson, and Diplo, and that was cool too, but admittedly not as interesting as I'd hoped it'd be. One Kiss crushes both of those. I don't know what the magic formula was here, but I knew this was going to be on the list right on first listen, and very high on it. Hell, it was going to top the list for months, because I haven't stopped listening to it since April, and I'm still not remotely sick of it somehow. Even now. I don't really know what else to say, half hoping that Calvin Harris will save me the embarrassment of having to praise him again a 5th year in a row. But I'm also cool with him continually making actual good music. Does this track alone make up for the crap that is I Created Disco and Motion in their entirety? No. But I think he may finally officially be off the shit list. That's scary, so let's just finish this list up. Number 1. Okay then. I'm gonna talk about something that no critic has ever talked before in history. Let's talk about Kanye West.
I'm a sick fuck, I like a quick fuck. I'm a sick fuck, I like a quick fuck.
I am so goddamn sick of Kanye West. To heck with Drake, I think Kanye is the person who most needs to take a break right about now. I don't want any freaking Yandhi album or whatever he says he's gonna do. I'm just freaking done with Kanye. All year, this man has basically completely dominated the musical landscape. Every time he does something, there's gotta be like 50 people rushing in to talk about it. And I get it, he is at least interesting to talk about, but god, everything this man has ever done is a desperate bid for attention. And there have been so many ridiculous, inescapable antics that have killed off any interest I might have had for him.
You hear about slavery for 400 years? For 400 years? That sounds like a choice.
Anyone who says slavery was a choice needs to get kicked in the nuts and never be listened to again. And I was never even that big a fan of his music to begin with, honestly.
Can we get much higher?
I'll admit I've only heard 2 of his solo albums in their entirety. I've heard My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. I think that has a lot of really cool ideas on it, but it's really overstuffed, ends like 3 times, and seriously needs remastering. And I also heard The Life of Pablo. I actually made a video on that one. Kanye, 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 Kanye. Kanye, 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 Kanye. Well, kinda. I'm sure I'm gonna get like 50 comments from people telling me how I need to listen to all the other Kanye albums, but he is like the most done-to-death musical topic of modern times. I am not remotely interested in adding to the conversation, especially when the guy himself seems like such an unpleasant dude that I really do not want to validate with my own attention. Nothing can fully make up for all the ridiculous crap he's put us through in 2018. He'd have to do something really freaking great to get my attention again.
I am legit feeling a strong 9 to a 10 on this thing.
What?
What?
God This is wrong. This is so wrong.
I'm so reborn. I'm moving forward.
Well, after Fantano just randomly decided to give the Kid See Ghost album with Kid Cudi a freaking perfect score, I figured I kinda had to listen to it. And okay, it is emphatically not a 10. There are still stupid moments like that freaking breakfast and headline on the title track that made me want to throw something out the window, but I did kind of really like the album a lot, enough to actually put on my iPod. And Reborn. Yes, it did happen to be the highest charting track from the album, making it up to the top 40 and qualifying as a hit. But it's at the top of this list because it was easily my favorite track from the album. Just delivering a pretty simple theme of moving forward with your life and dealing with mental illness with some pretty gorgeous 60s psychedelia-influenced production. And both artists are surprisingly easy to take seriously.
Very rarely do you catch me out. Y'all done specially invited guests me out.
Kanye gives a solid verse about his personal struggles and just wanting to go off his meds because he thinks that'll make him more creative, even though he knows it's probably not good for him. I'm ignoring any subsequent Twitter comments about this being the objectively correct, God-chosen path because that's just stupid and people should be able to get treatment for mental illness if they need it. But ignoring that context, Kanye's verse works pretty well by itself. But I like Kid Cudi's presence on this track even more. He's talking about his own struggles with depression and that kind of stuff, talking about how he doesn't know where to go, but getting out of the slump is something that starts with him, and he's gotta keep moving forward. And what's even more interesting to me is that they went through this entire track without a single swear word. They didn't need to in order to deliver this message, which is something I definitely have to give props for. Now, the main reason Reborn is my top pick is because this is a message that I think I personally needed myself this year. I graduated from college this past May. I feel like I've been in a bit of a slump myself, not fully knowing where I want my life to go or how to move myself forward from where I am. This track helped to remind me that I just gotta keep going anyways. And it also doesn't hurt that the track sounds amazing. All these psychedelic washes and mellotrons and organs, it's all freaking great. Like, 2018 couldn't have been that bad a year if a track with a freaking mellotron on it hit the top 40. So yes, while I wish I could say otherwise, unfortunately, I will have to give Kanye West and Kid Cudi my #1 spot this year. God help me. But of course, this is just my opinion. You can feel free to disagree with it, but I'd like to hear your thoughts, so leave the comments in the comment thing down there. Shout out to my Patreon supporters. They're awesome people. You want to add yourself to that list or make me review something, link to my Patreon is in the description. But yeah, that's pretty much it. That's all for today. See you next time.
Ain't no stress on me, Lord. I'm moving forward.